Okie dokie boys, Kings Island recently announced their new for 2020 Giga coaster by Swiss manufacturer Bolliger&Mabillard. Now I know a lot of people have recently made analysis videos of this, however mine is going to be just a bit different in the results of my analysis, which I will get into later on. Kings Island is a Cedar Fair theme park located in Mason, Ohio in the United States of America, and Orion will be their 15th operating roller coaster, adding to one of the biggest coaster collections in the world. Orion will also be the 7th Giga coaster in the world, as well as the 3rd by the manufacturer B&M. Now, even though it is called a Giga coaster, it is actually of another model name. Orion's coaster type is actually a B&M Hyper coaster, but is referred to as a Giga coaster because that suits the height a lot better. The coaster will have a height of 287 feet, which is in the hyper height range, but it has a drop of exactly 300 feet, therefore classifying it as a Giga coaster. Orion will be the shortest of B&M's Gigas in both height and length, which is at 5,321 feet. However, it will have approximately the same duration as Leviathan in Canada's Wonderland if counted from the first drop to the final brake run. It then has a top speed of 91 miles an hour, which is also a few miles an hour slower than Leviathan in Fury 325. Anyway, let's get on into the analysis itself and my personal thoughts on this coaster's layout and overall experience. After the lift hill, you start off with this huge steep drop, which will approximately be around 80 degrees steep if we were to guess. This drop should feel super long and give a fantastic sensation as well as some decent floater airtime the closer you are towards the back of the train. The bottom of the drop should also provide some good G-forces, not the most powerful but still pretty decent. The first main element of the ride is going to be this huge bank turn. Now this is one of the parts where my analysis differs. Most people who have looked at this calls this element a wave turn. Well, I'm sorry to ruin it for you, but it's not. At all. A wave turn is a highly banked turn which goes the opposite direction opposed to the direction it's banked towards, meaning that if you bank to the left, you turn to the right, and therefore you experience airtime, and the other way around as well, while you also shouldn't feel any sideways forces since the coaster goes downwards while banking. This element is known for its sideways airtime, and a lot of people say that this is what Orion has in the beginning. Except it's not. As you can clearly see, Orion's turn goes towards the left, while being banked to the left as well, which means you should experience little to no airtime here. You probably won't get a lot of lateral, aka sideways force either, since it creates balance between hang time and actual force by diving down while being banked. Many people expect this to be the best part of the ride, but I really don't think you should expect anything interesting from it. It will still probably feel pretty cool, but it will be far from a forceful moment. Then Orion hits its massive turnaround. Again, people seem to mislabel this element. Many people say this is a reversed version of Fury 325's treble clef element, but once again, you have been fooled. Fury's turnaround goes absolutely straight at the end while slowly on banking, with no hardlining at all, which means the track rotates around itself and not around the riders like it usually would. I haven't been on Fury 325 myself, but this is more like a wave turn than Orion's first element, and it should provide some G-force below 1, which means some weightlessness. Orion's turnaround is not like that at all. If you look closely, you can see that the track starts turning towards the right slowly before reaching the top of the element, making it a simple tall turn, whereas Fury's turnaround snaps into the straight position. So again, this element shouldn't be as powerful as a lot of people expect it to be. The descent from the turnaround looks like a great way to provide speed. It seems like this will give a super fun feeling, probably not with a lot of force, but at least awesome to a certain degree. Then you hit the first airtime hill, which is a speed hill lower to the ground than the average airtime hill. To me, it looks like this hill will provide some great airtime. I expect it to be a mix of ejector and floater airtime. It could also be great ejector, launching you out of your seat fast. It's hard to tell because it moves downwards slowly while it's also going really fast, which enhances the forces. Nonetheless, this should be one of the best moments of the ride, I think, and it's very similar to the one featured on Shambhala, which is another B&M hypercoaster. The hill is directly followed by the only classic B&M Camelback floater airtime hill on the ride. This element is iconic to the manufacturer and can be seen on many of their rides. These hills are built for the purpose of floater airtime, which means a great but not intense weightless feeling. If you sit in the back, the airtime will most likely just be felt on the way down from the hill, and if you sit in the front, you feel airtime going into it, and in the middle, the airtime should be sustained over the entire hill. To me, the hill seems to be a bit faster than the standard B&M Camelback, meaning that the floater airtime is probably going to be strong. Something curious about it is that it has a bit of straight track during the ascent, which these hills usually only have when they feature trim brakes, which are meant to slow the speed by a few miles an hour. However, no brake is seen on this animated POV, and this is a very detailed POV in regards to coaster mechanics, so the coaster might not have a trim at all, which will only make the speed feel even greater. The next element is an almost 540-degree helix, which starts in an ascent and ends in a descent. Very similar to Shambhala's figure 8 turnaround, except Orion's is more laid down and circular in shape. I expect this helix to feature some good force going into it. It's highly banked, which means there's a lot of speed, and it's a tight turn, which only results in more Gs. The top slightly unbanks even though it's about to dive down, which means that part won't feel intense. And the descent also doesn't look too forceful for me. However, this next ascent does, and also looks like a grayout worthy moment for the ones who are weaker to grayouts like myself. Here's the interesting thing, everyone calls Orion's turnaround the treble clef. However, I would say that this element here is way more like Fury 325's turnaround than Orion's actual turnaround. As you can see, they're both very similar in movement, except Orion's is more swift, which means there might be some pretty decent airtime here, as well as some laterals. Finally, the bottom of the drop looks like a decent place for some good quick forces, and the final hill into the final brake run looks like it will give some good floater airtime near the front of the train, like Silverstar at Europa Park does in the transition into its mid-course brake run. Now, I know a lot of people find this brake run to be very long, and it is, but it's only for the purpose of running more trains at a time. Many people would say it's longer than Fury 325's brake run. It is taller, yes, but if you look here, Fury's brake run levels out, but Orion's doesn't. So Orion's brake run really works the same, except it's tilted. In conclusion to this layout, I think Orion looks like an amazing coaster experience. You're going to feel some very good speed, some good airtime, and some good positive forces. I don't think there will be a whole lot of sideways force present, but the ride will still be great. It's very much a coaster designed for the showcase of size instead of intensity, and that's okay. I know a lot of people wanted this to beat Fury 325 as the best B&M Giga coaster, but that wasn't the goal of this ride at all. The goal was to make a unique experience that would be impressive to the general public and give a cool sensation, and that's exactly what Orion is going to be. I do think that it will probably be one of the weaker Gigas, but that doesn't mean it will be bad at all, and I believe this coaster will definitely make a great ride. In regards to the theming, the name is Orion, which is named after the giant huntsman from Greek mythology, who was placed in the sky in the form of stars by Zeus. I don't expect the ride to actually have that much theming. There might be some music in the queue line and a little bit of theming in the station, but I think the coaster will mainly focus on the layout. So in general, I think this is a great addition to Kings Island, and I can't wait for it to open, even though I don't know if I will ever ride it. Let me know your thoughts on Orion in the comments below, and whether or not you think this is a worthy addition. Otherwise, it has been Northern Rides, and I hope you all keep on riding.